All right, recording.
There are a lot of political fireworks going off right now between the U.S. Attorney General, the U.S. President, and Congress, and we're going to get to that plus a lot more in this video. But before we do, I want to thank everyone from the bottom of my heart for going to our merchandise store, our Teespring store, buying pillows, buying shirts, buying sweaters, whatever you need clothes-wise. Thank you so much for supporting independent media. Without you guys, we would not be here. Again, we're not corporate shills. We don't shill for the left-wing party or the right-wing party. We call it like it is, and we're going to try to do that as objectively as we can with, of course, this story that is dominating political headlines. As we heard just this morning alone, that Donald Trump invoked executive privilege to protect his attorney general. This, of course, is on the heels of Congress trying to hold them in contempt. All of this, of course, as we just saw a major political transition from impeachment to we got to get Attorney General Barr. And to me, this is a little bit ridiculous. But Jason, what are some of the details here? What is Trump evoking privilege on? What is he trying to protect here?
Yeah, he's basically claiming executive privilege over himself, his administration, and the Attorney General. Sarah Sanders is tweeting about it in this Nadler hearing. Where I believe it was 22-12 in the very beginning. I've been spending all morning watching this, where they find Barr in contempt for not releasing the entire Mueller report. I want to make that distinction because a lot of people think that it's because he didn't show up for that show hearing. Well, no, they are saying instead that they did not get the full report. And because of that, they did not get the material necessary. And they want not only the full report, Luke, they want all the evidence. The fact of the matter is the obstruction part is largely unredacted. And the majority, Luke, of what seems to be redacted, my man, it seems to be what? Take a guess. It's the ongoing investigations that lead back to the other side of the aisle.
Well, many people are pointing out that a lot of this is happening because Trump and the Attorney General said now, okay, the report's done. The spying, the investigation happened. The New York Times confirmed that there was spying. And now Attorney General and Trump are saying, we're going to find out exactly what's happening here. And of course, this is why people are speculating that now they're trying to get rid of Attorney General Barr from revealing that information. And I do believe that there is kind of more legitimacy on that argument than trying to hold them in contempt, because it just seems like a lot of these people are unsatisfied with the results. I'm just speaking honestly here from everything that I personally seen. If you guys think anything's different, send us some information, send them some sources. But it's hard because they were complaining about the time frame, the redactions, like any little thing that they could think of, they kind of make up here. And now this to me just seems far-fetched to try to go after him this way when I mean, again, everything was left up to the Attorney General's interpretations. And to me, none of this would have happened because this kind of this is what they're going after him for. They're going after him for not for, alleged collusion, not for participating or working with the Russians. They're going after him for obstruction of justice. It's obstruction of justice. And to me, that's like arresting someone for resisting arrest and nothing else. And in the proper situation here, the intelligence agencies, the big government agencies like the FBI, to me, there really should be a lot of scrutiny here, because if they did care about the safety and security of this nation, which they're empowered to do, they would have came to the politicians and said, hey, Russia's trying to influence this election. Let's work together. Let's cooperate. Let's find out what's going on here. They didn't do that. They took opposition research from Hillary Clinton, gave it to a court, and says, give us the spying warrants. And the warrants that they got here during this investigation were very broad, wide-ranging electronic surveillance warrants that pretty much allowed them to do whatever they want, carte blanche. They could have set up hidden cameras. They could have used spies. They could have set up hidden microphones. And to the extent to which they did that, Barr is going to investigate because, again, Donald Trump is calling this the next Watergate, but the other way around, the opposite of Watergate, since, again, he was coming in to be president of the United States, pushing a lot of blame against the FBI and, of course, Barack Obama. What do you make of that kind of assessment that I laid out there? Is it accurate, Jason?
Well, I mean, we're going to get to at least one of the representatives, Jim Jordan's take on the spying and how this all came about. He lays it out pretty well, but I want to point out on both sides of the aisle. For instance, the Democrats again and again point out how this is not a witch hunt by any means. Why is it not a witch hunt? Because we had all of these arrests. That gets pointed out again and again. We had one of them say, if it looks like a duck and it walks like a duck, it's a duck. And if it looks like obstruction and it smells like obstruction, well, Luke, then it must be obstruction. And then on the flip side of that, we had a representative of Ohio, a Republican, talk about the fact that they want to defame Barr because Barr is now investigating this intelligence community, this apparatus that started this investigation in the first place. And they're scared about those repercussions, Luke.
Before we play Jim Jordan's clip over here, which I think makes more sense. Again, this is just from my perspective. What were people arrested for? What's the big talking point? They were arrested. There was Mueller was able to put people behind jail. Well, predominantly, what did he put them in jail for? Well, many people say it was perjury traps, since many of the charges were based on contempt, lying. Other charges were based on taxes. Pretty much white collar crimes that were actually, in my opinion, petty compared to the actual corruption that happens with big business on K Street in Washington, D.C. To me, it's absolutely nothing concrete. They got Michael Flynn, the former national security advisor, on literally Israeli collusion. That's what they got him on. But the fact that he called Russia before Trump actually sat in the Oval Office in December before he was officially inaugurated. That's what they got him for. And that to me is what I mean, a serious investigation, millions and millions of dollars, hundreds of subpoenas, hundreds of warrants, hundreds of investigations, hundreds of documents, hundreds of testimony. And this is what they got. They got Michael Flynn getting a phone call from Jared Kushner, who works with Netanyahu, to lobby in favor of Israel in the United Nations during a major vote and trying to convince Russia to vote in favor of Israel. This is what they have. This is their main charge of getting Michael Flynn. Come on now. Perjury traps, taxes. Come on now. To me, this is nothing compared to the corruption that we expose and we talk about on this channel, Jason. Should we play some of that Jim Jordan?
Yeah, let's play the Jim Jordan, because again, I think Jordan does nail it here. Doesn't mean I like a lot of his policies, but I would agree with the vast majority of what is stated here.
Who seeks recognition?
Mr. Chairman.
For what purpose is the gentleman?
Strike the last word.
Gentleman is recognized.
Bill Barr is following the law, and what's his reward? Democrats are going to hold him in contempt. I don't think today's actually about getting information. I don't think it's about getting the unredacted Mueller report. I don't think last week's hearing was actually about having staff question the Attorney General. I think it's, as my colleague said earlier, I think it's all about trying to destroy Bill Barr because Democrats are nervous he's going to get to the bottom of everything. He's going to find out how and why this investigation started in the first place. Never forget what Bill Barr said a few weeks ago, 3.5 weeks ago, when he testified in front of the Senate Finance Committee. Said a lot of important things, but he said four very interesting things. First, he said there was a failure of leadership at the upper echelon, term he used, upper echelon of the FBI. We all know that's the case. Director Comey's been fired. Deputy Director McCabe fired, lied 3 times under oath, according to the Inspector General. FBI counsel Jim Baker demoted and left, currently under investigation by the Justice Department. Lisa Page demoted and left. Peter Strzok, deputy head of counterintelligence, demoted and fired. Peter Strzok, the guy who ran the Clinton investigation and the Russian investigation. There was certainly a failure of leadership.
Let me stop right there. He nails it there. They never, the other side of the aisle never talks about all that in the IG report and the fact that this does really lead to high Democratic funding in order to get surveillance, a warrant on a candidate for president. Forget about being a president and where that led later on. But everything Jim Jordan just said there, I believe, is accurate.
Yeah, I don't see any evidence pointing that it wasn't. Let's keep playing him.
At the upper echelon of the FBI. Second thing the Attorney General said 3.5 weeks ago in front of the Senate Finance Committee. Spying did occur. Said it twice. Yes, spying did occur. Third, he said, there's a basis for my concern about the spying that took place. And maybe the most interesting thing, 2 terms he used that frankly I find frightening. He said there was, in his judgment, he thinks there may have been unauthorized surveillance and political surveillance. Scary terms. We got to go back to January 3rd, 2017. Senator Schumer on the Rachel Maddow show talking about then President-elect Trump says this: if you take on the intelligence community, they have 6 ways from Sunday at getting back at you. Now, I don't know if the FBI went after President Trump in 6 ways.
Let me stop it right there. Schumer is an establishment politician that's been for globalist policies, that's helped destroy the state of New York. I've seen it firsthand. And this guy has been anti-Trump from the beginning, and he knows what these... Think about that. He literally went up there like a mafia captain on the media and said that these guys will get you 6 ways from sun. These are the same guys that telling us that Russia and they interfered. You told me they didn't interfere? Oh, I wouldn't want your business to burn down, buddy. These are the guys that go through the neighborhood.
He doesn't sound like an Italian. He sounds like Mr. Burns.
Well,
try the Mr.
Wait a
Burns
minute.
accent.
Whoa! Are we saying that the mafia is Italian? How dare you? Organized
Your
crime is
accent sounded
Italian.
Italian.
I see
grew
what
up
you're
in
saying there.
Bensonhurst half my life. Don't you dare! Don't you dare! I just had some Lenny's pizza yesterday. Don't you dare!
I want to keep going through this, but that's very interesting that Schumer was bold enough to say, "Hey, you want to take on the intelligence community? So the intelligence community isn't there to protect the American people. It's to be vindictive pricks that go after people they don't agree with politically." That's great to know. Thanks, Chucky.
Yeah, I remember doing a specific video on that comment because literally he went on national television and threatened the president of the United States when the president of the United States and the intelligence agencies were publicly bunting heads. And it was a huge comment that people need to remember. And again, unauthorized political spying here wouldn't surprise me. Wouldn't surprise me at all, especially from the Obama administration that increased wireless spying, electronic spying on almost every single virtual person. Why would they do that? Why would they do that if they weren't going to use it? Are you kidding me? Don't be naive. Be smart here. They're expanding these powers for a reason. Let's keep it going.
But I sure know they went after him in 2 ways. And the first one is the now famous dossier. On October 21st, 2016, the FBI used one party's opposition research document as the basis to go to a secret court to get a warrant to spy on the other party's campaign. That happened. Democrat National Committee, the Clinton campaign, paid Perkins Coie law firm, who hired Fusion GPS, who then hired a foreigner, Christopher Steele, who did what? Talked to Russians and put together this salacious, unverified document that became the basis to get a warrant to spy on the Trump campaign. They did it. And when they went to the court, they didn't tell them important things like who paid for it. They didn't tell them that Christopher Steele had already told the FBI and the Justice Department that he was, quote, desperate to stop Trump. And they didn't tell the court that Christopher Steele had been fired by the FBI because he's out talking to the press.
So once again, you have an FBI informant that's working for the Democratic Party, colluding with actual Russians to get information, and somehow this is confirmed, yet this isn't really part of Russiagate at all. Not at all. Yeah. This is the IG, this is the internal investigation that's come up with all these things, and you never hear these Ruski talking points on the other side. I hate the right-left divide. I mean, 99% of this was political nonsense. Again, grandstanding. But everything that Jordan has said is absolutely 100% correct.
Yeah. There's an important...
And
keep
second,
going.
just last Thursday, New York Times story, FBI sent investigator posing as an assistant to meet with the Trump aide in 2016. FBI sent someone in, pretending to be somebody else, to talk with George Papadopoulos, who was with the Trump campaign. You know what they call that? You know what they call that? It's called spying. They did it.
And let's stop it there because I want to talk about Papadopoulos for 1 second. In this document, it actually says that Papadopoulos was under investigation for working with Israeli agents, if not being an agent of Israel. Okay? Now, they didn't say that they disproved that either. They said that they didn't think that they could get a conviction on that charge. That should be alarming. Yet that is very, very underplayed. You're not going to hear anybody on either side of the aisle actually talk about that, just like you haven't heard anybody on either side of the aisle address the part of the report where they basically take 3 paragraphs and dismiss the idea that Seth Rich was involved in getting these leaks in the first place, and this entire Russiagate nonsense is possibly promulgated. Okay? Let's start right there. Because if somebody asks that question like, hey, did you ever talk to Julian Assange or surveil Julian Assange and find out whether or not he was telling the truth about that? Nothing. There's nothing about that. Hey, Kim.com, did you ever do the same with him or try to interview him? He said, both those people said they would make themselves available for the Mueller investigation, didn't want to do it. It's very odd, Luke. Yeah. So those are small parts of the Mueller report that I think are important, that are totally being underplayed. Yes, it's important to know that Papadopoulos was more than likely spied on, now that we know about this FBI spying, but it's also important to note that he may have been an agent of Israel.
They did it. They did it twice, and who knows how much more. And what I know is Bill Barr has said he's going to get to the bottom of it. And think about the term he used again. This is important. Political surveillance in the United States of America. I will not yield. Think about that term. He's going to get to he said he's going to put a team together, going to investigate all this. This is critical. And never forget the guy who ran this investigation, Peter Strzok, ran the Clinton investigation and then launched and ran the Trump-Russia investigation. Never forget what he said. Trump should lose $100 million to $0. We need an insurance policy. Told Lisa Page, don't worry, Lisa, we'll stop Trump. This is what Bill Barr wants to investigate. And as my colleagues have said, this is the House Judiciary Committee, with the history this committee has in protecting fundamental liberties and protecting the Constitution. Last week, there was another important document Emmett Flood, sent to the Attorney General. I just want to read a couple sentences. Under our system of government, unelected executive branch officers and intelligence agency personnel are supposed to answer to the person elected by the people, the president, and not the other way around. This is not a Democrat or Republican issue. It's a matter of having a government responsible to the people, to we the people. In the partisan commotion surrounding the Mueller report, it would be well to remember that what can be done to a president can be done to any of us. And this committee is supposed to look out for that fundamental fact more than anything else. And we are not doing that today. I yield back.
I think he killed it. And I think he's right. I don't like what the administration has done, Luke. Obviously, we've been doing a lot. The administration progressively, in my opinion, especially with their foreign policy, has gotten worse on this issue. I'm afraid to say Jim Jordan and many of the other Republicans are actually correct.
Yeah, you're like, darn it, I don't want to say one side is right, and I could definitely feel that. I could definitely understand that. But the bigger point and the bigger takeaway here, there does deserve to be a lot more scrutiny on these intelligence agencies, especially the ones who are culpable here, the ones who did the spying here, the ones who, of course, didn't go to the people of interest and say, hey, if we really do care about Russian collusion, let's go work together and try to stop it. All right, that would have been the normal thing that anyone who really did care about any form of collusion would have done. No, they didn't do that. They used it as an opportunity. It's extremely political. It's extremely nasty, and it needs to be called out. That's why we're doing it here, and we're going to keep criticizing Donald Trump on the issues that he deserves to be criticized on, which, again, rarely ever get brought up by the mainstream media. And of course, if you want to see work like that, you have to vote. You have to share with your clicks, with your dollars. You guys are more important than ever to this independent media outlet. WeAreChange.org is our website where you can sign up on our email list, donate to us. You guys are more important than ever to independent media. I want to thank everyone again so much for watching. Stay tuned for more here on WeAreChange.org. We kind of went long, so that's why I ended it.
No.